Let me show you how to create an animated infographic with interactive buttons using Adobe Animate. In this lesson, I'll go over how to import an Illustrator file into Animate, as well as add animation to clouds and windmills in this renewable energy infographic. I'll also show you how to set up interactive buttons to open and close pop-out windows. So let's jump right into this lesson and start creating. Alright, I'm in Adobe Animate now, and the first step is creating a new document, so let's do that. I'm going to click Create New. That'll bring up your new document window. I'm going to choose the Advanced tab from the top menu selection here. And then I'm going to click on HTML5 Canvas. And the width will be 1280, and the height will be 720. You can leave the units on pixels, and the frame rate, we'll change that to 30. And then once you have these settings in place, go ahead and click Create. Now that I've set up my canvas, I'd like to bring in an Illustrator file into my scene. I'm going to switch over to Illustrator for 1 sec here. You can see I have an infographic that I've created previously, and in my layers panel, you can see I've placed them all on separate layers. This is important because you'll need to do that in order to animate them separately, and it just makes the whole process much easier as well. So once you've designed this, by the way, this will be available to you in the download folder, which you can find in the description below. So I'm done with this. I can go ahead and just close it, and now we can import it into our Animate scene here. And to do that, just go up to File, Import, Import to Stage, and you can see here, there is the AI file called renewableenergy.ai. I'm going to click Open, and now this window will appear. You want to make sure that you click Select All Layers, and then click Import. And you can see all the layers that we had in Illustrator carry over nicely into our Animate scene. And so if I click Timeline, you can see down below, there are the layers ready to go. Now I had an extra windmill here on the pasteboard, which I don't need, so I can go ahead and just delete that. So next we'll start animating. We'll start with the windmills, and then we'll do the clouds, and then as we go on, I'm going to show you how to add interactive buttons for these pop-outs here. So let's start with the windmills first. So with my selection tool, I can actually click on each individual blade in the windmills, and what I want to do is convert all three to symbols. Okay, so I'm going to click the first one and go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and then let's just call this windmill_1, and you can leave it the type as movie clip is fine, and just click OK. Let's do the same for the other two. Modify, Convert to Symbol, and this will be windmill_2. Just click OK, and we have one more here. Click that, go to Modify, Convert to Symbol, and this is windmill_3. So I'm back on the first one, and what I want to do is double click. So much like the isolation mode in Illustrator, when you double click, it drives into that selection. It creates its own inner timeline, and then you can add animation inside there. Okay, so here I just want to add a rotation that loops. Okay, so I have this here, and I'm gonna right click, and let's create a motion tween. Now that sets up a motion tween of 1 second. You can see here in the timeline, it has a 1 second motion tween. I'm gonna go to my frame in the properties panel here, click frame, and then go down to rotate, and you can see the count. Let's change that to 1, and then just hit your tab key. And you can see that the drop down here automatically changes to clockwise, so that's fine. And the count is 1 time. And I want this to be longer. 1 second will be much too fast for this windmill to rotate. So let's change it to, let's go to about 14 seconds, just so you get a nice slow rotation animation. And so 14 is good. And by the way, just to rotate or to drag that, just put your cursor at the end until you see your cursor turn into 2 arrows, and then just drag to where you want it. But I think 14 seconds is good there. And then the other 2 windmills, I'll probably have them come in a little bit slower just to have a different pace for each. Okay, so now that you've done that, that one's done. So I'm gonna just go back. Okay, let's do the same thing. Actually, I missed a step. There's one important thing you have to do here. So let's double click and go back in. I'm gonna zoom in nice and tight for this one. And I'm gonna choose the free transform tool. And then this little dot here, you want to drag it right into the center point of that circle. You might even have to zoom in even more and get it to the center as much as you can. This way, the only thing it's going to rotate center to the circle, and it won't be off its axis. Okay, so once you've done that, you can go ahead and click Scene 1 to exit. And let's do the other two, and then I'll show you how it looks in a browser, okay? So I'm gonna click the second one, again, double click, and let's right click, create motion tween, okay? And in the properties panel, under the frame tab, change the count to 1, and that automatically sets the rotation to clockwise. You can also just choose clockwise and then set it to 1 if you want. And then with your free transform, again, let's move that anchor to the center of that circle. Something like that is good. And because we set the first one to go to 14 seconds, let's go a little bit longer with this one. So let's do 18. Okay. And if it's too slow, we can scale it back a little bit. Perfect, that one's done. Now 2. We have one more to do here, so I'm gonna just double click and right click, create motion tween. And you can see it sets it up here in the timeline. And then all you have to do is go to count, type in 1, tab, it automatically sets it to clockwise. And with your free transform tool, zoom in and drag that center anchor into the center of the circle as best as you can. Something like that works. So I'm gonna zoom out. So the windmills should be set up. I'm gonna go click out back to scene 1. And what I'll do is, there's a couple ways of testing this. The simple and quickest way is just do command return, or you can go to control and test. Okay, so control and test will open up the work in a web browser, as you can see here. So I forgot to set the time. You can see how fast that one's going. Of course, if you want it to go that fast, by all means you could do that, but I think that's a little bit too fast in comparison to what the other two look like. So let's go and scale that one back down. I'm gonna go back to my timeline, double click, and let's drag this to 18 or 16. So we have 14, 16, and 18. So all three have a nice kind of pace to them, okay? Once you've done that, go ahead and click back to scene 1, and let's see how that looks now. Command return, and you can see you have a nice slow windmill rotation, which is nice, and they're all moving at their own kind of pace, which looks good, okay? Next, we're gonna do the clouds. So it's the same kind of concept here. Much like the windmills, we're gonna have to convert the clouds to symbols as well. So I'm gonna click the top one and go to modify, convert to symbol, and let's name this cloud underscore 2. The type movie clip is fine. Go ahead and click OK. Click the second cloud, modify, convert to symbol, and this is cloud underscore 2, and go ahead and click OK. Oops. So I named that first one 2. Let's call this one 1. Perfect. I'm gonna start with the top one first. Double click. And then now that I'm in to cloud 2, I'm gonna right click and create motion tween. And I want this to be, again, I'm gonna drag this all the way to, let's do 8 seconds for now. And if we want it to be longer, we can do that. I'm back on the first frame here, the first keyframe, and I'm gonna move this cloud right out of the scene completely, okay? And what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna make this even longer. Let's do it like 16 seconds. Or let's do it 14. So you want everything to move kind of at a slow pace. When you get to there, put your cursor at the last frame and move the cloud all the way to the right. Okay, you can see there's a motion path here now, okay, which you can grab these anchors and move them up and down if you want the cloud to kind of sway through the air, but I want this to go kind of just in a straight line. And if I move my time, if I move it right to the beginning and hit return, you could see it's moving at a nice pace for 14 seconds as we set it, okay? Now the second one, I might do it a little bit faster, so we'll do like 10 seconds, but I like the pace of that, okay? Now that you've done that, you could just go ahead and go back to scene 1. That one has been set. You can see it's out of the scene to start, and that's fine. That's how it'll begin when the animation starts, okay? Let's click this first one, double click, and you can see we're in cloud 1 now. And right click, create motion tween, and the first one was 14 seconds, so let's go ahead and make this one. Let's make this one 10 seconds, okay? Let's drag our playhead right back to the beginning, click that first keyframe, and again, move it right out of the stage, okay? And you can see I have it out there. Move the playhead right to the end, click that last frame, and then move the cloud. By the way, I'm holding shift as I'm moving just to keep it straight, okay? And then once you have it on the other side, out of the scene, just release, and you can see, again, I have the motion path set there. Again, you can go ahead and move these little anchors here if you want kind of a looping cloud. But again, I just have a straightforward straight line on this motion path, and this one plays out at 10 seconds, which is a little bit quicker than that first one that we set. And so you don't want the clouds to come in together. It doesn't look as realistic, okay? Once you've done that, again, just click the arrow to go back to scene 1. So far we've set the clouds and the windmills. Let's have a look to see how that looks in a web browser. So there our windmills are going, and the cloud, you can see the one on the bottom's moving at a little bit quicker pace, just the way we set it, and it looks a lot better. And you can see those just loop and loop and loop. So next, we're gonna add the interactive buttons to our animated infographic. We'll go ahead and add those to these next. So once again, we're gonna have to convert each one of these pop-out windows into symbols. So let's start with the top one. Modify, convert to symbol, and let's call this info box _1. Again, these will be movie clips as well. Click OK. Let's click on this second. Let's do this one, the bottom one, as the second one. Modify, convert to symbol, and this will be info box _2. And let's do the third one, modify, convert to symbol, and this is info box _3. Just click OK. Now we also want to change these plus icons into symbols as well, because these will be the buttons that trigger each one of these pop-out windows. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Click the first plus symbol, modify, convert to symbol, and let's call this button _1. And instead of movie clip, this will be a button. Click OK. Click the second plus symbol there, modify, convert to symbol, and this is button _2. The type is button, click OK. And the last one, modify, convert to symbol, and this is button _3. The type, again, is button. So go ahead and click OK. So now we have all three of these are also converted to symbols, as well as the plus icons. So we're ready to move on. We're going to add a looping animation to all three of these pop-out windows that can be controlled with these icons that we converted to buttons. Let's start with the first one. I'm going to double click, and with my selection tool, I'm going to click on the first one, right click, create classic tween. So for the animation of the windmills and the clouds, we set up motion tweens. Now for this, we want a classic tween because we're going to control the looping animation here. So I'm going to move my playhead to the 15 frame mark, and I'm going to create a new keyframe. So you can do that here in the timeline tools, insert keyframe, or you could just hit F8 and then drag the playhead to the 1 second mark again and add another keyframe. Okay, I'm going to move my playhead to the beginning, click that first keyframe, and let's grab the free transform tool, and while holding your shift key, drag it inwards until it's very small. I'm going to zoom in here, and something like that is fine. Now we're going to add an alpha color effect to this so it fades in when you click it. Let's stay on object here. In the properties panel, click the object tab, and in the color effects we want alpha, and you can see it automatically will be set to 0. If it's not, just move this slider all the way down to the left. So you can see the opacity is now 0. Now what I'm going to do is actually right click this first frame and copy the frame, click the last frame, right click, and paste the frame. So now I have kind of this looping in and out, okay? That will allow us now to add some stop actions and play actions later on. We have to add another layer inside of this scene here, okay? So let's rename this first layer to pop out _1, okay? Pop out _1. And then above, just create a new layer, and let's call this actions. We're gonna set 2 stop actions. So we want a stop action for when the animation starts, right? We don't want this to appear until we click that play button later on, which we'll set. So I'm gonna open my actions panel, and to do that, just go to Window, Actions. I already have mine open here, and then you just want to choose Add Using Wizard. And what this does is it just allows you to add some code to control the action of stop, okay? So step 1 here, select an action. Let's scroll down, and we want this to stop, okay? An object on which to apply the action, this timeline that we're working on, okay? Then hit next. Step 2 is select a triggering event. So with this frame, we want to have it stop, okay? So we're gonna finish and add, and you can see the code has been added. Now I'm gonna move the playhead to the 15 frame mark and add a keyframe there. You notice I'm working in the actions layer here. Go ahead and click the keyframe to add a keyframe there. And let's add another stop action there. And we're repeating the first step. So again, we're gonna have a stop action on this timeline that we're working on. Click next and select a triggering event with this frame, okay? Finish and add. Once you've done that, go ahead and go back to scene 1. If I zoom out, you can see it's not there, right? You can't see it because we've added that stop action right at the beginning, and we've added the alpha, okay? So let's do it again to the second one. Double click, okay? Let's rename this layer before we go any further. This will be pop out 2. All right, and let's go ahead now and right click and create classic tween, which will set up at 1 second. If you want to shorten how fast the pop-up windows come in and out, just shorten this timeline. But I'm gonna keep it at 1 second, okay? I'm gonna go to the 15 frame mark and add a keyframe. Let's go to the 1 second mark or 30 frame mark and go ahead and add another keyframe. Let's go to frame 1. And again, hold your shift key with the free transform and just scale that down, right down, as small as you can get it, okay? Something like that. You can go even a little bit more. And then I'm just gonna move this. I just minimize the actions panel until I need it. Okay, so I'm in the object layer now, or sorry, the object panel in the properties panel, and we want alpha, and that's 0. And the easy way of just repeating that is just click that first frame. Let's copy the frames, click the last frame, right click, and then paste the frame. So you have that looping in and out, okay? This will all make sense. It'll make more sense once you've set it up. Right now it's probably like, okay, what's going on? But once we set this up, you'll see what I mean with the open and close, okay? So I'm gonna create a new layer here, and let's name this actions, because this is where we're adding the actual actions, okay? Actions. All right, so the first frame is already there. Let's open our wizard, and our actions panel to add it using wizard. And let's scroll down. This again will be stop on this timeline. Click next with this frame that we have selected, and then finish and add. Move your playhead to the 15 frame mark, click there in the actions layer, and just add another keyframe, okay? Either F8 or click this button here, okay? Either one will work. And again, add using wizard. We're adding the second stop action on this timeline. Click next, and then with this frame, and finish and add. So we've added both stop actions to this animation, okay? And you know that you've set the action up when you see this little A icon. It's very, very small, but it's in the actions layer. You can see it right above the keyframe, each keyframe, okay? Again, just click the arrow to go back to the first scene, okay? We have one more to do. Let's just zoom in here, click that last pop-out window. Again, double click, and let's call this pop out _3. Right click, classic tween. Move your playhead to the beginning. Click the pop out window, hold your shift key, and drag that last one in. Again, zoom in. To zoom in, command, I guess on Windows, it would likely be control, and then just zoom in with your mouse, okay? I know the other, I'm sure you can change it, but in other applications like InDesign or Photoshop and even Illustrator, it would be option and zoom in out, but this is command, okay? Let's go back to our object tab in the properties panel. Under color effects, change it to alpha. You can see it goes to 0. Move your playhead to the 15 frame mark. Actually, I gotta go back because I forgot to add the keyframe at the beginning, okay? So let's go back. It's very important to do that at the beginning. It's a step I missed. So let's go to the 15 frame mark, add keyframe, and then the last one, add keyframe. Let's go to the first frame, hold your shift key, and drag that right down. And we zoom in again. Drag it as small as you could possibly get it there. And then just go to color effects and alpha. And again, right click, copy the frame, go to the last frame in the sequence, right click and paste. Okay. Again, there it is, the last one that we've set up. Let's zoom out, okay? And now we have to add the action. So create a new layer, and again, actions. And on this first one, let's go back to our actions window here, add using wizard, scroll down, go to stop. On this timeline, next, and it will be with this frame. Go to the 15 frame mark, scroll down, stop on this timeline. Actually, let's hit cancel for a sec there. We have to add another keyframe here before we do that. So add using wizard, stop on this timeline, next using this frame that we've selected here, finish and add, okay? And you can see both of the actions have been set. Actually, the first one wasn't, so let's go ahead and do that as well. Stop on this frame, next with this frame, add, okay? Both of them now have been added, and we're ready now If I go back and zoom out, you can see all three pop-out windows are now not there. So let's go ahead and trigger these buttons to open and close these pop-out windows. We'll do that last step next. Before we add the interactivity, we have to add instance names to each of the buttons and the pop-out windows. So let's click that first icon there, and you can see in the object in the properties panel, you can see there's an instance name field there. So let's just call this trigger_1. Let's call this second one trigger_2. And the last one, you guessed it, is trigger_3, okay? And you can see it's trigger 3, it's an instance of button 3, okay? Now we have to do the same to the pop-out text. I'm gonna click that, and let me just go in here and click this with my selection tool. It might be a little, I double clicked it at first, and I'm gonna click back out so it's selected. Now it allows me here to have an instance name. So let's call this pop_out_1. Perfect. Let's do the same to the second here. Might have to click it first and then click out to gain access to the instance name. So this one will be pop_out_2. And we have one more here. So I'm just gonna click the layer to, where is that one? I know it's small, so just click it, double click, and then go back out, and you can call this one pop_out_3. Perfect. Now all the instance names have been applied, so we can go ahead and add the interactivity. Again, we have to add an actions layer to our main timeline layer here. So to do that, just go ahead and click the plus sign in the layers panel. And this will be called actions, or you can call it interactivity. Okay, so let's go back to our actions panel here and click on that first keyframe here. We don't have to add any keyframes. We're gonna set all the interactivity on this action layer in this first keyframe here, okay? So let's go ahead and click add using wizard and go down to play, and we want it to play pop-out 1. Go ahead and click next. And step 2 is select a triggering event. This will be on mouse click. And select an object for the triggering event. So this will be trigger 1 that will trigger pop-out 1. Okay? Finish and add. Let's add another one. Now, because I'm still on that keyframe in the actions layer, I can go ahead and do that. Step 1, go ahead and play. That's the action. And we want to play pop-out 2. Go ahead and click next. The triggering event, again, is on mouse click. And the event is trigger 2. Finish and add. You can see the code is building here inside this window. Let's add one more. Add using wizard. Let's go to play action. And we want it to play pop-out 3. Go ahead and click next. Again, the triggering event is still on mouse click. And an object for the triggering event is trigger 3. So go ahead and finish and add. You go ahead and close or minimize the actions panel. And now we can test out this entire infographic with the animation of the windmills, the clouds, and the interactive pop-out windows by pressing Command, Enter, or Return. And our animation's working properly. And you can see that I can click to open and close, click to open and close, and the last one, open and close. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create an animated infographic with interactive buttons using Adobe Animate. If you found it helpful, leave a like or comment below, and while you're here, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay up to date with all my latest content. If you'd like to learn how to create an animated digital ad using Adobe Animate, check out this video right up here. Until next time, take care and keep creating.